What's up, pretty gang? It's your favorite nail tech Peaches, and today we're going to be talking about lifting. I'm going to show you a timeline of this particular client, how we fixed her lifting, and how we deal with it based on her career. So before we get into it, of course, description has links to coupon codes as well as my Amazon storefront. Follow me on Instagram for updates and content. I'm in Sacramento for those who want to book an appointment. Subscribe and turn your notifications on. And for those who want to see me teach a workshop, I'll be at Nail Pro next month. So this is April 13th. This is a brand new set. This client is a hairstylist. I have her on a schedule of 2 weeks of fill, 3 weeks a new set. Now we're at April 24th, was approximately 11 days later, where she doesn't have too much lifting, but it is time for a fill. The reason why we do 2 weeks is so we can address any of the lifting before it gets too extreme, because if not, I'm telling you, hairstylist clients, it can get crazy. So here we are, May 11th. This is a month later, and you can tell there's a little buckling around the edges, which means she probably would have a little bit of lifting, but it was time for a new set so we can see what's underneath. She has naturally thinner nails, so this is a healthy soak off for her. And of course, we put her a fresh set back on May 11th, and 2 weeks later, May 25th, this is where we pick up. This is going to be a color fill change, which means I filed down the acrylic so we can put a new color on top. You can see she is due for a fill, but she does have a little flaking around the edges, which means there is some lifting. This time around, it is more extreme than it has been in a while. As you can see, once I kind of got in there, that's what made me decide to record, because I'm like, hold on, we can use this footage. So typically with hairstylist clients, the reason why they have lifting is because they wash so much hair and there's a lot of product in water that breaks the seal around the edges. And as we know from our process with prep as well as sealing the cuticles, that's exactly the reason why we spend time to perfect sealing the cuticles, because we don't want anything to interfere with getting underneath the enhancement. So when you have clients that do have issues with lifting, typically you're gonna know that right away because they're honestly gonna tell you. So when they are a first-time client, they're typically gonna say things like, oh, my nails never last, or oh, I typically always get lifting on this finger, or they're gonna say something like that to verbally cue you to continue asking questions and talk to them through the set. Because what you need to know is, did the last place they go to just not properly prep and seal the cuticles, or is this actually an issue with like their nails as a whole? So if someone does give you a verbal cue on, hey, I typically receive lifting, that's when you're going to go ahead and say, oh, what type of job do you have? Or do you wash your hands a lot? And they're going to tell you, oh, I do hair. Oh, I am a nurse. Oh, I wash dishes. Oh, I cook, whatever it may be. Then that's going to let you know, oh, okay, hey, you possibly may have that type of lifting because of the type of work that you do. If you're a hairstylist, ask them, how often do you work? Like, do you have a full load, or is it just a light load? Because that's how you're going to determine how to move forward. And once you kind of answer those questions, or rather, I guess, get those answers while you're doing their nails and prepping them and filing them, you're going to explain to them throughout the process, hey, I'm doing this like X, Y, and Z because this might be a possible reason that you had lifting before, even though you are a hairstylist, et cetera, et cetera. It could have been made worse by poor techniques. And then by the end of the appointment, you're going to recommend, hey, I honestly recommend you to come back at 2.5 to 3 weeks so we can monitor what's going on and see how bad it is. Okay. So this particular client has been with me for close to 2 years now. And that's how we got on this schedule of 2 weeks. We need to do a fill. And at 3 weeks after that fill, we need to go ahead and do a new set, because 3 weeks is really pushing it for her. She is a barber. She works at like a Sports Cut, a Great Clips. So she's busy like 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily, 5 days a week, taking a lot of clients, washing a lot of hair. They are sales based, so they really need to sell those products, sell those, hair washes, and really bring in money that way. So this particular time, she actually had a way fuller load than she already has. Times of years such as like holidays, back to school, summertime, those are typically where they see an influx of clients, like even more so than what they already see. So that's why I was not surprised on the extra lifting. Actually, when she sat down, she's like, well, might have a little bit extra lifting because X, Y, and Z. So I knew based on that verbal cue to proceed with caution and not be don't take what I see for surface value. Because based on the surface value, is that what it's called? Face value, whatever. it looks like, oh, there's not a lot of lifting, let's just prep and go. But upon me going in further and looking a little deeper, you can see that it's a lot more white, flaky than what it looked like. Now that white flaky is what needs to go, because if I were to bend the nail or do something, it would reveal hidden lifting. Okay, so basically what we need to do to get rid of this is we need to be careful. I know a lot of people use all types of bits and tools, but you can see the acrylic is pretty thin because I am doing a color change fill, which I only do for plain colors, meaning I filed down as if I was going to do a soak off, except I'm just replacing with a new layer of solid color. It's already pretty thin. I am not comfortable using aggressive bits so close to the nail plate, so I personally like to use a zebra medium grit sanding band, and I just go ahead and focus more on the technique that I use rather than the aggressiveness. So I like to use the drill at a lower speed, and you can see I keep the drill moving and I focus on the area when I need to focus. I'm not directly laying the tip in at such an angle that's going to cause dang, what is that called? My brain is blanking, y'all. Ring of fire, which is those harsh rings that you see around. You can see I'm not doing that because otherwise you would begin to see that right away where I've already previously filed. So we're talking about that finger because you know, she was pointing out X, Y, and Z. We're having conversation at this point. Of course, you guys can't hear, but I think she was saying that one may be the one that was a little bit worse or whatever. So I'm using my hands to tilt the fingers to all different angles, and I'm stabilizing my hand with the glove underneath. I'm holding the skin, well, I'm holding her actual finger kind of rough, not rough, but pressure. I'm using pressure, and then you can see with my thumb in the pink glove, I'm squeezing the nail between my thumb and pointer finger and stabilizing on the back of my hand, so that way I can kind of pop the nail up a little bit and look at any hidden lifting. That's going to be your key, because I could keep going forever and ever and ever and not realize that, hey, there's more that needs to be done, but I'm doing this safely. So sometimes you have to apply a little extra pressure so that way you can, it's like a little trap door. You're not going to see it if you don't apply a little pressure. Now you need to be careful because we don't want to hurt anybody. We don't want to over file their nails. We don't want to give them any rings of fire. We do not want to accidentally lift the nail up so much that it's causing pain, because a nail that's not stable and actually really fully attached to the nail plate is going to wobble and it can hurt. So you need to make sure you're stabilizing the person very, very well, because sometimes if the lifting is very extreme, like it's hidden in this case, like I can see it, but someone else might not be able to tell. But when the nail is flopping around, if you just go to remove it, it's going to move a lot. It's going to vibrate off of the drill. You know what I'm saying? So don't be afraid. Take your time. You see how I'm bouncing from nail to nail because I really want to avoid hurting her. This can be painful if you're not careful. If you do not have the tools to do this, you need to stop and think, is this something that I should actually do? Because to be honest, I've seen it time and time again. You can wreak havoc on someone's nails from this amount of filing if you don't have proper techniques. I know I mentioned this a lot, but nail school is something, along with practice and your critical thinking skills, that those things combined is what's going to help you from preventing further damage to anyone else. In the beginning, it's inevitable that as you learn to use these tools, you are going to cause damage to people, but with the proper education, you're going to hope that it's as minimal as possible. You see what I'm saying? So in this type of like situation, a lot of damage can be done if you're not careful, and you can end up with a bunch of rings of fire, you know? So at this point, with this amount of lifting, I can tell I'm gonna be here for a while, but because she's on a schedule of 2 weeks of fill, right? So at this point, based on the timeline, this is May 25th. Her original set was April 13th. So in that time period, she's had a fill, she's had a new set, and we're getting ready to do another fill, right? So in about 4 weeks, we've had 3 services done. So we need to be extra careful because that can be considered as a lot of filing in a month's time. You know what I'm saying? But it is worth it. This is the type of lifting that she would have when we first started. her journey. But after I put her on this schedule, I will say probably within a month and a half, it just kind of dwindled down. So now that it's been about 2 years of this is pretty much as bad as it gets. And like I said, that's only because there's an extra, influx in her job. But I'm telling you, it really does work. Putting people on that schedule is going to be your saving grace. Some clients are not going to listen, and that's okay. But you as a nail tech are going to have to be the one to really convince them, okay, you're going to keep having these issues until you stay consistent. Maintenance is really the key to everything when it comes for nails. You know what I'm saying? So another closer look at the techniques that I'm using is I am using my e-file in different ways. You guys saw that I laid it flat. I'm using it horizontally. I'm using it as how I normally would during prep. Do not be afraid to explore using it at different angles such as this, because that is going to create like the least possibility for rings of fire. Don't be afraid to keep it moving, and honestly, don't be afraid to get rid of the lifting. If we don't get rid of the lifting and we do put acrylic over top of this existing acrylic, what's going to happen is there's going to be little pockets underneath everything where moisture can still set in, and that can cause greenies or bacteria and things like that. And that's just simply not what we want, So as I'm looking, right, remember how this thumb started out? It didn't seem like it was that bad. And now look at what we're working with. All this little white flaking realistically needs to go. But sometimes you come to a point where I did have to explain to her during this appointment, like, hey, I'm going to keep going for a little bit longer, but also your lifting is pretty extensive, and I don't want to get to a point where we're sitting here basically just filing the whole nail off because you're coming in 2 weeks. So I'm going to get rid of the parts that really, really matter, and we're going to have to go ahead and proceed with the rest of the fill. You know what I'm saying? So this client has been many times since, because now it's July, and you can see I'm going back to the other fingers because I'm still not done, but this is what I'm showing to you guys. So I hope this video really puts in perspective what can cause lifting, how to talk to your clients, and really how to get a better look on it. Lifting can happen for all sorts of reasons, but if you don't take care of it and you don't handle it, it's going to drive you freaking insane. Okay, you see what I'm saying? So you guys, that was really a breathful. I apologize. Woo, Lord. So let me get some water. So of course, off camera, I do the fill, I remove the rest of the lifting. This is pretty much where we're at. And this is the final look. You can see how much nicer it looks fresh versus what it looks like when the lifting starts to kick in. So moral of the story is take care of the lifting, put your clients on a schedule, and maintain the maintenance. And I'll see you guys, of course, in the next video.